Gus was known among his friends as the perpetual thrill-seeker, always pushing for adventures that stirred the heart. It was no surprise that he found himself leading his eclectic group of friends into the heart of an abandoned building on a moonlit night. Rachel, the fearless artist with sapphire-like eyes, Tim, the tech-savvy genius who never parted from his tablet, and Emily, the sharp-witted and adventurous soul, rounded out the quartet. The building stood like a forgotten sentinel, its windows like dim eyes gazing out onto a world that had moved on. Gus, his shaggy hair casting a shadow over his determined expression, took the lead. With each step, the creaking floorboards seemed to sing an eerie song of forgotten memories. As they entered, the air turned thick, carrying the weight of anticipation. Their flashlights sliced through the darkness, revealing glimpses of peeling wallpaper and fractured furniture. Gus's grin was infectious, a facade to mask the unease prickling at his skin. How about a game of Who's Afraid of the Dark? Anyone in? Rachel's laughter held a tinge of nerves. You're on, but I'm claiming victory. The quartet ventured deeper, each room revealing the building's past through its decay. Tim's tablet, held tightly like a lifeline, began to emit a flickering light, a dance of pixels that seemed to waver in rhythm with the shadows. Emily's chuckle was strained. Seriously, Tim, couldn't you have left your tech at home? Yet as they laughed, a distant whisper seemed to brush against their ears, a voice that was not theirs, nor a product of imagination. It was as if the very walls held secrets they were reluctant to reveal. They exchanged bewildered looks, their bravado faltering. Gus's confident grin wavered as he shrugged off the unease. Must be the wind or something. But then the shadows seemed to congeal, pooling in corners and forming vague, ethereal shapes. Tim's tablet buzzed with interference, its screen displaying a series of glitched patterns that resembled faces, frozen in contorted expressions. Rachel's voice trembled. I don't think this is faulty wiring. The whispers grew louder, a chorus of voices overlapping in an otherworldly symphony. Shadows twisted and danced, an ethereal ballet that reached out to touch them. Gus's courage began to wane, his throat dry as he managed a weak smile. Okay, maybe it's time we head back. As they retreated, the whispers seemed to echo in their ears, the building exhaling its long-held secrets. Just as they reached the exit, the air grew frigid, and a mournful wail seemed to seep from the walls. The door slammed shut, the force of it knocking Gus off balance. Fear danced in their eyes as they turned to face the room they had just left. The atmosphere was charged, and the temperature plummeted even further. Tim's tablet suddenly lit up, the screen displaying a series of dates, each more ominous than the last, as if revealing the building's tragic history. Rachel's voice was a mere whisper. Gus, I think we're not alone. Suddenly, apparitions materialized before them, translucent figures that seemed trapped between the realm of the living and the dead. They reached out with spectral hands, their eyes reflecting a profound sorrow. Emily's bravado crumbled, her voice shaking. Gus, what did you get us into? As if in response, the figures began to reenact a scene from the past, their movements fluid and hauntingly real. Gus and his friends were silent witnesses to a tragedy that had unfolded within these walls, the anguish of the spirits seeping into their very souls. The quartet's collective breath caught as the apparitions faded, leaving behind an oppressive stillness. The door swung open with a creak, as if releasing them from a grip they hadn't realized had taken hold. Outside, they leaned against the building's decaying exterior, their breaths heavy. Their earlier laughter had given way to a heavy silence, the weight of the paranormal encounter settling around them. Gus had led them into an adventure that had transcended the boundaries of the known, a journey into a world where past and present collided in whispers and apparitions. The building had been a portal to a realm unseen, its secrets etched into the very fabric of its walls. As they walked away, the building stood as a testament to the unexplained, its darkened windows like the eyes of a guardian who had whispered its tale to those brave enough to listen. The night hung heavy with the weight of anticipation, the moon casting an eerie glow over the forgotten street. Goosebumps prickled on my skin as I walked beside my two closest friends, Lily and Mia. Our footsteps echoed through the quiet neighborhood, laughter punctuating the stillness. The air was charged with a sense of adventure and camaraderie as we approached the abandoned house that had long piqued our curiosity. The old building stood like a sentinel of forgotten stories, its weathered facade bearing the scars of time. We had often passed by it, but tonight was different. Tonight, fueled by a mix of bravery and the thrill of the unknown, we found ourselves standing before its imposing doors, their rusty hinges groaning in protest. The house seemed to sigh, its forlorn appearance sending shivers down my spine. With a deep breath, I pushed open the creaking door, its eerie protestations echoing in the night. We stepped inside cautiously, our flashlights cutting through the darkness like hesitant beacons. The floorboards creaked beneath our feet, a symphony of eerie sound that seemed to be a chorus of whispers from the past. Lily's auburn hair cascaded over her shoulder as she exchanged an excited glance with Mia, her eyes glinting with a mixture of fear and anticipation. I felt a knot of apprehension tighten in my stomach, but there was no turning back now. The house's interior was an amalgamation of dust and decay, a forgotten world suspended in time. Mia's voice trembled with nervous excitement. "Are we seriously doing this?" Lily's grin was unsteady but determined. "You know we're going to regret it if we don't." As our flashlights painted the walls with trembling beams of light, a sense of unease settled in. Shadows danced on the walls, their movements casting unsettling shapes that seemed to shift in rhythm with our pounding hearts. The air was thick with an almost tangible tension, as if the very walls were holding their breath. As we explored room by room, the eeriness intensified. Dust-covered furniture stood like silent sentinels of a forgotten era. The air grew colder, carrying with it a hint of a scent that was both musty and tinged with something far more unsettling. Mia's voice wavered as she half-joked, "Maybe we should have brought a priest or a good luck charm." An uneasy laugh escaped my lips. At this point, I'm not sure anything would help. As we ventured further, the air seemed to grow heavier, as if the very atmosphere was closing in on us. I shivered, my breath visible in the dim light. Shadows seemed to move of their own accord, their dance taking on an eerie life of its own. A sudden drop in temperature made me wrap my arms around myself. "Do you guys feel that?" Mia's teeth chattered as she nodded. "Yeah, it's like a sudden chill." Lily's flashlight trembled in her hand, its beam flickering as if struggling to stay steady. "I've heard stories about this place being haunted. Do you think—" Her words were cut short by a sudden power outage, plunging the room into pitch darkness. Panic surged within us, my heart racing as I fumbled for my flashlight. The air felt charged, as if we were not alone in the suffocating blackness. With trembling hands, I managed to turn on my flashlight, its beam revealing something that defied explanation. The furniture in the room had shifted, the dust-covered sheets draped haphazardly over them. It was as if the very walls were alive, responding to our presence. The weight of the moment settled heavily upon us, and a hushed silence seemed to envelop the room. It felt as though time itself had stopped, and the room held its breath, awaiting our next move. My voice quavered as I whispered, "We need to leave. Now." Just as we turned to go, the door slammed shut with a force that rattled the entire house. Panic surged within us, and we rushed to the door, our fingers fumbling to find the handle in the darkness. The door finally swung open, and we tumbled out into the night, our breaths ragged. Our laughter was nervous, a mixture of disbelief and relief. Lily's eyes were wide, her face pale. Did that just happen? Mia's voice was shaky, her hands trembling. I can't explain it, but something in that house, something wasn't right. As we walked away from the abandoned house, the memory of our encounter seemed to cling to us like a haunting shadow. The thrill of adventure had given way to a heavy silence, the weight of the unexplained still lingering in the air. The house stood as a sentinel of the unknown, its secrets buried deep within its decaying walls. And as the moon continued to cast its eerie glow on that fateful night, the memory of our experience would forever be etched in our minds, a tale that we would share in hushed voices, leaving others to feel the same shivers that had traced our spines that night.